This is a tinfoil speedo alert. Put it on right now. Put your tinfoil speedo on right now. Coach Colin here, Soul Not For Sale podcast. Jason Sands, Joe Rogan. Jason is retelling his encounter with an alien. No ears, big eyes, pictures of the alien. Drawings, of course, from his memory. So he's going to be talking about that encounter in the first clip. Then the second clip, he's going to be talking about what telepathy felt like, because that's how they communicated, and how that left him feeling afterwards. So this is just a straight up tinfoil speedo episode. Then we're going to talk a little bit about whether or not I believe him. And we're also just going to, just touch on some things. I'm just going to go through a whole bunch of things that I want to bring up about this. Let's get into it.
Because it was a very cold day and the wind was blowing. It was, those cold days where it didn't matter how many layers you had on. And so as we're getting closer, I'm talking to the ranking guy. Hey, we need to slow down. So anyway, I'm thinking this guy's probably in big trouble. I need to pull off my jacket. I need to give him something to get warm real quick. So I'm starting to do that, and we're approaching. And by the time I get my jacket most of the way off, he's right there at the corner of the front of the car. And
so he looks pale. Is that what you're saying?
He looked like an albino with a very bluish kind of undertone. If you could imagine,
So you're assuming you're immediately associating that with he's freezing.
Yeah, because that's all I could equate it to.
Right.
And then as I'm starting to open my door to try to administer aid to this guy, the dude in the front passenger seat screams he's got no ears, and I thought that was pretty rude because I was like, the guy's in trouble.
Does he have a hat on? He's
got a hat on, and he's got BDUs that look absolutely clean, pristine. And when you're uprange, you do not wear your cleanest uniform. You're in a dirty environment. You wear your scuffed up boots. You don't take them with you.
So he's got clean battle dress uniform.
Everything.
United States military
very out
uniform
of place. Yeah, it looks very out of place when I finally do it. But anyway, I step out onto the roadway, and this guy screams that he's got no ears. And I just thinking it's really rude. And then I close the door and I look up and he's got no freaking ears. And his eyes are twice as big. And I just am like, yeah, what the hell did I just walk into? This guy's not from around here.
How far away from him are you?
Probably from me to
just a few feet.
Yeah, just talking distance.
Okay.
And I'm starting to freak out. But then he starts to talk to me, and it's not my language. But it's coming to, the understanding is like coming into my mind about every word he's saying.
So he's actually saying words.
He's saying words, but it doesn't sound like anything I've heard before.
But you're understanding what he's saying.
But I'm understanding. So I know there's a telepathic thing going on here, and it calms me down at the same time because I'm having to respond to him. And he's like, hello, I'm having trouble with my craft. I need some repair material. Do you know where I could find some tritium? And this is what he's talking to me about. And I'm like, you mean titanium? Because I didn't know anything about tritium at the time. But titanium, he's like, no, it's not it. And I'm like, well, at this point in my career, I had just left the program, so I knew where Dreamland was, and I pointed to the mountain range because you can see for days in the desert. But I pointed towards the mountain range, and I said, Dreamland's just over there. And this wave of emotion hit me like disgust, like I am not going to talk to those barbarians and murderers.
Wow, so he was saying that to you, like his reaction to going to the military base was...
Exactly, yeah. But he did not like it. He said, I am not going to talk to those people. And then I was like, well, shoot.
And it was barbarians and murderers?
He literally, that was what he called them, yes. And mentally, that's what it was. But the emotion...
Tritium, is this a real thing?
Well, that's what... I've had a lot of friends. There's analysts also that were on the top secret network that were trying to help me understand what material...
We were throwing everything at him. We're like, is it this? Is it this? And he's
then
like,
finally,
no.
That's the one. When they hit tritium, I was like, that's what it was. That's what he said.
What is tritium?
It's a type of... can he bring it up on the...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because it should pop up on Wikipedia pretty quick. But it has some properties that probably
tritium.
would work.
Are you saying tritium?
Yeah, tritium is... that's the stuff that's in loom. Like in your watch, when your watch glows, that's they make those where they're basically like radioactive isotopes that stay lit. So like if you get like a Marathon watch, Marathon makes military watches, and it doesn't need like this watch. You need the light, and the light charges the loom, and then when it's dark out, you could read the hands for like a few hours.
It's the thing that they used to put on the end of the guns, right?
Exactly, they still do. Like Sig has them.
Look
on
up
their guns.
tritium also. Put an
tritium
end in
is
there.
just it's.
I did that. That's not giving me much.
So tritium chunky glow in the dark glitter. What is that?
These are game websites.
Oh, I see.
I don't know.
Okay, so it was tritium, then I'm maybe mispronouncing
But
it.
tritium that's that radioactive isotope.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stuff that emits light.
Yep.
So it emits a weak form of radiation.
Yes.
A rare radioactive isotope of hydrogen with a half-life of 12.3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this is what he's asking me for.
So he's asking you for that stuff? Tritium?
Yep. And I'm like, I don't know where to get.
Oh, look at that. It's used in boosted fission weapons and thermonuclear weapons. Oh, great.
That sounds reassuring, right?
I wonder what the it's doing on your wrist.
This is what the best image that we have of what he could have looked like.
Oh, boy. Can you send that to Jamie?
Yeah, I don't know Jamie's number, but we'll find a way to.
Is that an iPhone or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that an iPhone?
If I had my phone, I would, but it's out there, I think.
Yeah, airdrop it to Jamie. Do you know how to do that?
There was
How
that
dare
one.
you not know how to do that?
And there's a
Your
three-dimensional.
guy works with UFOs. You better know how to do that.
Well, there's a three-dimensional image of the craft as well that is really spot on from what I saw that day.
Yeah.
Because not only did I see this guy running towards us and talking to him, but off the shoulder on the north side of the roadway, that's where the craft was just resting on the desert floor. And I got a really good look at it at that point. And this guy did a 3D rendering of the description, and it's spot on as I've ever seen. It's almost perfect.
So he asks you for tritium. You tell him this is what it looked like.
This is what the guy looked like. Pretty close to it.
Yo.
The nose was a little bit rounder on the end, but that was a really good rendition. But yeah, his eyes almost came out to here on the temple.
Wow. And that would freak me out.
It freaked me out. I mean, honestly, I'm not an easy guy to get freaked out, but that really put that, like you just saw an alligator pop up out of the water kind of thing.
Right. So when you tell him go to Dreamland, it says I'm not going to go where those murderers and barbarians are, and then what happens?
And he said no. So I was like, well, where else can I possibly point him to? Because I'm like, I don't know any metallurgists or whatever. So I'm thinking to myself, and I relayed to him. I said, well, I'm taking college classes down in the city of Vegas, Las Vegas, at the community college. But I have a geophysical professor that I'm taking a class from. Maybe he has a metallurgist friend, and he's like,
so you're thinking at this time though it's a metal.
I am, yes.
Right, because you're thinking it's some kind of like titanium, some type of...
Right. And there's also when
This is the 3D image of what the craft looks like?
That is almost as spot on as I've ever seen. That is about it right there. That's almost exactly what I saw resting on the desert floor.
And so you're trying to find different people that you can connect this being to.
Yeah.
And what is it saying to you while you're...
He thought that was a good idea, I think, or he was like, I mean, made him... He had that kind of and he wanted to take action, so he doesn't really even say goodbye. He just kind of turns and off he goes back to his craft. And I'm thinking, well, okay. And I get back in the car. And sometime during that conversation with this entity, I remembered looking over at my friends in the car, and they had the weirdest look on their face, like they're all zonked out, totally zombied. Like they were just drooling on themselves.
Were they just because they were flabbergasted, or was it because something was going on?
Well, I figured out that maybe it was done by this entity because none of them seemed to even remember the incident. Only a few people seems to remember that we stopped, that we had talked to somebody on the roadway, but it was mainly the people that were in the back of the convoy.
So they didn't see it up close like you did?
Right, like we did. The people
so how
that were
far
right
away
there,
would they be?
They'd probably be a good 2 car lengths behind us.
That's still enough to detect whether or not someone looks blue, though, right?
Correct, and that's probably what they saw. But you know me, I'm kind of wide and I'm big. I was very muscular back then.
And you're standing in front of this thing.
So they'd have a difficult time because this guy stood about a good half foot shorter than me. And so they probably could see his arms from time to time, maybe catch a glimpse of his face or something. So they probably didn't get a very good view because if you're looking at me, I'm standing right next to my door. Mm-hmm. And they're behind me kind of almost obfuscated by just the angle that they're looking at him. So all the windows are tinted in those vehicles, and they can't just see through the windows right to whatever's on the left.
And the people that were in the car with you, you feel like something happened to them that like froze them?
They did look like that, yeah. Like you said, just a look of just utter like, like
the guy who said he has no ears. Does that guy have a recollection?
That guy they can't find.
They can't find him.
No, I've tried. I was asked by the UAP task force, David Grush, to reach out to these folks, the people in the car. I got a hold of one, got a hold of him on LinkedIn, and we started talking. And, just, hey, how's the wife? How's the kids? That kind of stuff.
How about that UFO we met?
And as soon as I did that, the guy just disappears and ghosts me. And I don't know what happened. But he was the ranking guy in the car. The guy that was the passenger, nobody can seem to find him because they did try to verify the people in the car, and I gave the names. And the young lady that was off to my right, I don't know if they contacted her, but I've heard from other people that were part of this background investigation about my story. They found 2 people that verified my story. And I don't know who they are. They've been told to keep their mouths shut.
All right, so that was the first clip where he's just going through, the whole experience. But now I'm about to show you, basically he's just talking about what it was like experiencing the telepathy that the alien, I guess, put upon him or used on him, or, however you want to phrase it. So he's just talking about that now. Let's get into it.
Mind space, there's some residue memory there. Because Dave kept pressing me on it, and he said, can you tell me about the red star? And at first I'm like, well, no. And I was like, and all of a sudden some memory came back, and I was like, holy crap. Yeah, that's where he's from. That's his home star system. And he came from there. That's his home. And then we just went on from there, and he said, did you know that they've actually just now discovered a few years ago that there's exoplanets around that star? And I was like, no, I had no idea. So all these things started coming together at that point. And that's when they started saying, okay, well, we're going to do some more vetting. And within about a month or so, they were bringing me to Congress, and everything else happened after that.
Now, what is the rest of your life like after that day? So you have life before you experience this creature, and then now you know that this is a thing.
It's a thing, yep. And it changed me. How do you explain this? If you could imagine the entire human race, you and me, you don't have to talk to me, but you can feel my presence. You can feel who I am, my personality, and share in all of that. And then imagine that by millions, the entire planet, you can actually commune with them. It brings with that a level of civility even in the control of your thoughts, because right now we don't read each other's minds. So our minds are like, oh, look at that girl. Oh, look at that, the sports over here. There's a football game on. We're so distracted. But this guy's, when I was engaged with him telepathically, it was like civility to the maximum. It was like very courteous. He waited for me to say. He'd talk. And it was like, just like we do. We have certain etiquette. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, there was this part of him that he left me with that was part of the community of the consciousness that he is able to feel all the time. And that has never left me, is that there's a community of consciousness out there that when they've been living for so many years with this sort of ability, it has changed them for the better, because their minds are under control finally. Their emotions aren't running them, like you were talking about addictions and things like this. They don't run their lives like that anymore because of it. And if you do, they end up on a criminal list somewhere, I would imagine. But there was such ever since then, that feeling of peacefulness and civility is what I've strived for. Never has left me. Never has left me.
Whoa.
So let's just get into a little thought exercise, okay? So we're going to go all over the place, okay? I'm going to go into not believing him. Let's go with the premise that this is not true. Then let's go with the premise that this is 100% true. And then let's just go even deeper into the tinfoil speedo. Let's just really work in that tinfoil speedo. Just in case yours is a little stiff, let's really work it in. You know what I mean? So let's just go with the first thing I think when I see this guy and I hear this guy talking about this is I don't believe him. Like right away. But that's because, you can't have gone through the past 5 years and just decided that you're just going to believe people when they say things. We've had some people fell into the trap that's been going on the past 5 years. Some people were like, I'm not trusting anybody anymore. There are no real experts, right? And right away, I think to myself, because there's a lot of these guys that are whistleblowers, but will also say, I can't talk about that. And he does that in this episode. There's certain things where he's like, oh, I can't talk about that. He's retired. It's interesting. Why can't you talk about certain things? But fine. Okay. But I'll just go into this. So I know that there is a financial gain to be had by being one of these guys. And I know you're thinking, oh, it can't be that much. Yes, it can. It can be into the six figures. It can be well into the six figures doing something like this. Having these stories be out there, interviews, documentaries. Maybe this network wants to pick it up and make a documentary. That network wants to pick it up. There is an opportunity for money in all this. But I don't know the guy. Maybe he's not starving for money. Maybe he's good. That pension, it's probably real nice if he's getting it. I don't know. He doesn't look all that old, but you know what I mean. So I go with that because the thing is, I love people. That's why I sit and I talk all the time. And you probably feel like I'm talking directly to you because that's what I do. I love to just sit and talk. That's why I can do it in a room with nobody here and I can just do it just for hours if I wanted to. But I find it very hard to trust people. I love connecting with people. I love speaking with people. I love it. But I find it very hard to trust people, you know? And that's, I'm sure you're the same way. You've had things that show you can trust people, a lot of things that show you that you can't trust people. Things happen to us throughout our life. So I find it very hard at first, I look at it and I go, this is not real. He's saying that this guy had no ears. Okay, big eyes. Okay, it's actually the most refined gray alien that I've ever seen. Quite honestly, people also had other renditions, or not other renditions, but this was what they showed you was a 3D rendering. This is what was first done based off his description, which is why he was saying that the nose was a little rounder. If you can see here, he was commenting on that whole thing. So very hard to trust this whole thing. But that checks out. I mean, that could be a thing that we're seeing right there. That is not out of the ordinary, right? Well, I mean, it is, but it's not. It's not like he's getting all grandiose and crazy with this story. But he's saying that he blocked the guy, so no one else saw. There's a bunch of people there. You can't hear from any of them. One of the guys who said he has no ears went missing. He says no one else saw it. He was blocking him because he was pretty muscular back then. And also, everybody who was there was all zonked out because the telepathy did something. We're almost working to a story where, oh, the alien was talking to me and it had the power to make everybody just feel like a zombie. And, oh, man, it's just me here. Sorry. Jeez. That's not the most believable thing. Then also, I feel like, and this is just me, I feel like I would say, hey, who are you? And why don't you have ears? Oh, stop with the telepathy. Stop for a second. No. Don't worry about Terrenium and all that stuff. You're going to answer my question first, and then I'm going to help you with your ship. Why don't you have ears? And where did you get a hat? Why do you have a baseball cap or a military type of hat? And why don't you have ears? And why are your eyes so big? What's going on with you, buddy? And you can answer back in your voice or telepathy, whichever you'd like. I feel like I would ask those questions, even being overwhelmed. I think that's the only thing I'd be able to ask if I was that overwhelmed seeing an alien. I'd be like, who are you? Why do you have big ears? What's going on? You have big ears? You have big eyes? What is all this? Answer me right now. Why do you look like that? Why do you look so weird? But he doesn't ask any of that. He just kind of takes in the whole experience, which a lot of these guys in this whistleblower group have a tendency to do. Jeremy Corbell, I believe his name is. I hope I'm saying that name right. He's been on Rogan a few times. The last time he was on Rogan, he said he saw a UFO. He said he saw it and it was about 12 feet above him, maybe 10 feet in the air. And it was really close enough that if he jumped as high as he could jump, he could actually touch it. And he said, instead of me pulling out my phone, and I know you're not going to like this, Joe, I decided not to pull out my phone and I just wanted to take in the whole experience. Sorry. So I know they're real and I saw it, but I decided not to take any type of film or picture of it. Sorry. buy my new documentary, watch my new documentary, you know what I mean? It's hard. It's very hard. And the last thing I'll say is, when it comes to these type of guys, and then we're going to move on to believe in it and go deep into that. When it comes to these guys, what I always decide to do whenever I see them is I say, well, if the guy starts a career off of this whole thing, well, then I figure he's a liar. And if he doesn't, then I feel like he's not lying. And I know that's just my logic. You know, for you, that might not be a thing. That doesn't make sense. But for me, that makes sense. Because I watch people when they're doing stuff like this, or they're in the news, or I watch and I see, let's see what happens. Because if there's a career that spawns off of this, that means that this was a planned thing that you're doing. Or maybe you're just monopolizing on the fact that there could be money to be made, you know? Hawk Tua type stuff. But I don't know. That's just my thinking. So I'm going to watch the guy. So I'm not going to sit here and just say I don't believe him. Now, again, this is a thought exercise. So all the people who are like, I've been a believer since I was a kid. Trust me. And I've seen ghosts. We're not going to talk about that, though. I've seen them. 100%. And I've seen something darker than a ghost. We're not going to talk about that either. That's for another episode. So I believe in the otherworldly, in the surreal. I've seen what the occult can do. I've seen evil. I've known God now since I've been saved. So I can go all over the place. You know, I've done enough psychedelics, you know, encountered the things you encounter when you're in that realm. I know about this stuff. So let's go into actually believing them. Now, let's just say it's all true. Okay? This face right here makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a less exaggerated version of the gray alien. It almost seems like a cross between what we are and a gray, you know? And then there's a lot of talk about the grays being us. So this actually, to me, when I see the gray with the no mouth and the skinny body, when I see that, I go, I don't know. But when I see this guy, I'm like, this is very plausible. This is very, very plausible. Now, let's just talk about the whole telepathy thing, right? He saw the guy, everything like that. I think that's possible. I think it's weird. I also find it very weird that the alien thought that element was readily available to the point where he could ask anybody and they'd be like, oh, it's over here. I found that very odd. But we're going to get into that when I go extra into the rabbit hole. That's an extra into the rabbit hole type of thing. Let's just write that down. Material everywhere. Okay. So let's just go into the telepathy thing. Man, if you had telepathy, if you had an encounter with something like this and it had telepathy and it used it on you and you were able to use it, right? You would come away the way that this guy was feeling. You would feel like there was a piece of something left with you. I really do believe that, because that would be a strong experience. Like, think of this. When you have a good friend, what do you do with a good friend? You talk to them. You talk about your heartbreaks and you talk about, you know, your ups and your downs and your darkness and your depression and your family and your this and your that, and they do it back with you, and you feel like you have a piece of them. They become family. They're not blood family, but they're your family. They're like soul family, right? And you feel a connection to them. I would imagine if you could go through telepathy, you would feel that, everything I just said, instantly. Because the person, you know, or the being, whatever you want to call this guy. Plus, I mean, come on. Look at the jawline on this guy. The solid dude, thick neck on the dude. Been doing alien push-ups, whatever those look like, you know? But you would right away open yourself up to that person, because they'd be in your mind, you'd be in their mind, right? So they would instantly have access to all of the heartbreak and all of the darkness and all of the happy moments and the family and the thoughts that nobody hears. They would know you in and out, through and through, and you would feel like that with them. They would see the childhood memories and everything, I would assume, right? So the way that he says he feels after this whole experience really does make sense. You would feel like when he talks about this civility, a lot of people talk about that after psychedelic experiences. Joe Rogan's even talked about that. They talk about feeling connected to everything. And even rephrasing that, they walk away knowing that they're connected to everything. And you would have that same thing if you had a telepathic conversation with someone. It would be confirmation. You'd be like, oh, we are connected. There's no telephone or anything that's doing it. Our lips aren't moving. We're communicating. So, what he's saying with telepathy, it sounds very real. It sounds very real to me. I one time I did this stuff. If you can see what that is, I did that. And my friend did that too. And I remember he's tripping and he can't explain it with words. There's just too much going on. And I remember him saying, my buddy Mike, love you, Mike. Love you so much. And he says to me, I remember he's like, I wish you could be inside my mind. Because he just couldn't explain everything that was going on. He couldn't put it into words. He couldn't put it into what he was seeing and feeling. And he's like, I wish you could just be here with me. And I was like, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I understood completely. And it was weird because that was kind of telepathic because that didn't make any sense. But at the same time, it did. I was like, I get it because I was going through it too. So it's interesting. It's interesting what he says about, telepath. And then again, like I said, this is a very this face makes sense, Now, this is why you put your tinfoil speedos on. Let's go a little deeper here. Do I have any videos to show you guys? Oh yeah, I found one video. It's actually of the alien. So he said there was no videos taken, but apparently there was. I think it's the same race. I think there's the same race of alien. It's here. Yeah. Listen, I don't make the rules, folks. Apparently, this is one of them. Very, very angry creature, but along the same lines. And I don't know if this being comes in peace or not, but just be on the lookout. I think this being was on one of the drones, came down, and now is just wreaking woke havoc throughout the world. Hates our president already, which is very odd to me.
For guilt.
Anyway, but let's go a little deeper into the rabbit hole, right? This guy looks like a human. Let's be real. This looks like a human being. It's funny. I was just watching something. I was just showing my wife, and this guy was talking about how the Greys, as we know them, are actually mutated human beings who live in a parallel Earth, and they cross over. So it's not that they're flying through space, but they cross over into our dimension or our parallel Earth, and they come here because we have the OG DNA. We have the original DNA that they come from. And in order for them to go back or survive, they need our DNA. Okay? So hey, I told you this is a tinfoil speedo moment, okay? I made that very clear, okay? So I don't want to hear anything. So that's a possibility. I mean, in this conversation that we're having, that is a possibility. Now, I say that because this guy looks like a Gray, but he also looks like a guy, His name could be Gorlak, or his name could be Barry, Barry, what have you been doing? Not much. Barry, are you doing acid again? Nope. Why do you even ask? Your eyes are a little big, Barry. What's going on? Nah, don't worry about it. I'm back. I had my lunch break. Let's just get to work, okay? But that whole notion, and then I have to touch on this. The fact that he thought that material was readily available. Let's go with the premise that that's real. This parallel Earth thing, they're actually humans, parallel Earth, parallel universe, whatever you want to call it. Multiverse, I don't know. But why else would he think that this element, this material, is just everywhere. He's saying it like, hey, he's saying it like, do you have any gas? My ship broke down. Do you guys have any gas? Like, that's what you'd say to somebody. If you were stranded somewhere, you'd be like, hey, do you guys happen to have a jerry can? I just need like a little bit of gas. There's a gas station down the road. I just don't have a jerry can. Can you guys help me out? That would be a regular thing to ask. But the fact that this guy, and again, we're going with the premise that this is all true, but the fact that this being came to him and said, hey, do you have any trinium or trilinium, whatever it was called? That's very odd. And then he has this hat on. Is this like a military hat? That's why I bring up the whole parallel thing. Because it's like, is he a part of the military just like Jason Sands is a part of the military? I know you can correct me of what he's specifically a part of. Okay, but you know what I mean. And he's just like, oh, some servicemen. Servicemen, just like I'm a serviceman. You guys must have some trinium around. You have any? And, he's not moving his lips at all. He's doing it telepathically. And maybe because Jason Sands is kind of like, oh, and the guys in the car are like, nobody knows what's going on. He all of a sudden realizes, I'm communicating with this guy telepathically, but he's not doing it right. He can barely talk telepathically. This is very weird. What's going on here? Where am I? Maybe he figured it out. Or maybe he's just like, oh, geez, in this world, they don't have this readily available, and I have to figure out a plan B, and I have to figure it out ASAP, because now they know they've seen me, and they see my ship, and I have to go now. I don't know. Mutated DNA, mutated humans. Because, I mean, look at the godless way that we're operating right now, where people, Joe Rogan being one of them. You guys know I love Joe, but Joe's one of them. Where they're just Sam Altman, Elon Musk. They're all just kind of going out there and just being like, oh, we're all just going to have no bodies. We're all just going to merge with machines. That's probably what's going to happen. I don't know what we're going to do about jobs. People always figure out creative things to do. They're just kind of throwing us away. And there's just these popular podcasters that are like, oh, you're going to have to merge. That's normal. That's normal. You know what? I think this is just, I'm quoting Joe Rogan. I think this is what just happens universally. How do you think that? You couldn't even name 4 planets outside this solar system. What? How do you think that's what happens universally? You barely even know what happens worldwide. And I'm not just talking about him. I'm talking about anybody as a person. But again, look at the godless way we're operating. We're starting to merge with machines. That's a thing that's happening, right? A lot of us, if you're the age I am, 80s baby, a lot of us are going to experience people our age when they're very old getting robotic limbs. And it's already happening with people who are younger. Neuralink is already happening in people who are paralyzed. So they keep on merging. Eventually, these people who are very frivolous with their divine body are going to go, oh no, this was the wrong way. Oh, shoot. I want to go back. How do we go back? I don't know. Maybe that's what this guy figured out. Maybe that's what his race figured out, that they do go back every once in a while. And they try to figure it out. And they say, okay, let's just get some of the DNA and then we'll just synthesize it and we'll try and make more of it. And then we'll do a blood transfusion. And maybe we can go back to just being regular human beings with all the technology and knowledge that we have. We just went the wrong way. We've gained technology. We've gained a lot of knowledge, but we completely didn't realize that we need these biological bodies, and now we got to go back. I don't know. So I'm going everywhere with it. There's a part of me that doesn't believe him, but if I am gonna believe him, there's a whole bunch that I could say about it. What else did I have written here? Yeah, can't trust people. Say it's true. The mind reading, yeah. Psychedelics, I broke that down for you. Yeah, man, I think that's it. I don't know, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this whole thing. Do you think that this is real? Do you think that this guy's truthful? Jason Sands, they are calling him the biggest UFO whistleblower since Bob Lazar. You look at Bob Lazar, again, going back to careers. You look at Bob Lazar, didn't make any money. Not that I know of. He could have. For all I know. I don't know. He must have made some kind of money. But really stays away from everything. But a lot of these whistleblower guys are jumping right in. A lot of documentaries, within a couple weeks he knows Grush. He knows all the names. He's communicating with all the people. He'll probably do a podcast with Jeremy Corbell and, but then, and again, pulling from the other side, if you were one of these people who was a whistleblower, wouldn't the first thing you do is connect with other guys just like you? You'd be like, I have to connect. I have to start connecting the dots more and more. I have to understand what I actually saw. Is there another guy who saw what I saw? Did Grush actually see a guy? Did Bob Lazar, he said he saw a being. I need to know if he saw a being, if it was the same color as the guy I saw, or if it had the same eyes as the guy I saw. I need to know what the ship looked like that Bob saw. And did it look similar to the one that I saw? And, you would connect with people right away. I mean, I know you guys ever watch Ping Trip? I know Ping Trip. Why do I know him? I'm a podcaster. We just end up contacting each other eventually. It's just the way it goes, Jesse Jesse on Fire? Someone mentioned me on his podcast. One of the commenters, love you for that, actually. And Jesse on Fire is like, yeah, I'll do an interview with the guy. And I was like, oh. So now I'm going to message Jesse on Fire and see if I can do it. People do connect when they're in common spaces, common fields. So I can't hate on him for connecting to Grush and all these people. That's what you would do. That makes the most sense. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you guys think it is? Do you think that this guy is just not telling the truth? Do you think that he is telling the truth? Do you think that this being is actual? These eyes, this nose, everything, these great cheekbones, by the way. Great. Lacking on the ears though, which, you don't really need them. If you're doing telepathy for years, you're going to stop growing ears, right? That's the way that's going to go. Imagine the first person to be born without ears because telepathy's going on. It's like, ugh. Can't wait till a few more of me are born. I just have no ears. But I have no ears to you guys. You guys have never seen my ears, really. So, I could be one of those people. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you think it's true, if you think it's really a mutated human, or let's just go down this really quick. This dude could, okay, and I know this is some movie stuff. This dude could have easily been working for the same U.S. government that Jason Sands was working for. They could have easily mutated this guy in some way. Do you think like the military has no projects like that at all? Nothing? I don't think so. I think they have something like this. They must. And that's why he maybe had no problem approaching some men, because those were his fellow countrymen. And he was like, oh, let me just talk to them telepathy. They're here. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be there. Maybe he thought that they had the clearance to talk to somebody in his position. And then when he realized they didn't, he left. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe it's just like the drones where people are like, this is our technology. Maybe that guy that you see on the screen right now, maybe he's one of theirs. Maybe they found gray DNA and they were like, which soldier is going to splice with this guy? And they tried it on 100 and it didn't work on any of them. And some of them died. And then all of a sudden, a couple of them survived and actually had the ability to take on this form that you see here. And now they have telepathy and all this stuff. There's just so many things you can do with this. But we're coming up to 40 minutes here on the podcast. I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much if you stayed through all of this. Working in that tinfoil speedo, getting it nice and limber. Like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Helps the channel tremendously. Other than that, I'm out.